Good afternoon. Maybe you can tell me a bit of yourself, right, when you're young and so on.
Currently, I'm late 64, so that means I was born in 1961. In a way, I'm older than independent Singapore.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so 1961, that's the start of the 60s. I think in general, I've been quite fortunate because I've seen both sides of Singapore. I've seen a Singapore that, in a way, became independent from the British and then started to industrialize, and now we have a thriving metropolis, which is quite respected around the world.
Yes,
in
agree.
terms of the Singapore brand name, and it's really through the efforts of many people, of course, including our leadership, and of course, contributions from my mother's generation, your mother's or your parents' generation,
agree.
all those before and all those after. Yeah, and I was my sort of recollection of life, so to speak, was basically the places where I lived. In those days, my mom was running a hardware business, so she would foster me out to my auntie, who was living at that time in Club Street.
Okay.
Not that far away from my mom's place, which was Boat Quay, where the current Merchant Court Hotel is.
Yes.
Yeah. And then when I was back with my mom during the weekends, I'll be alongside the Singapore River, the sights and smells.
Wow, Singapore River.
Yes,
nice.
that's right. Yeah, that's basically my childhood background.
What keeps you busy during your younger days?
Yeah, good question. I guess at that time, because you didn't know any better, as in you didn't know that today we have this phone that would basically more or less govern our lives in so many ways. Those days, I was quite fortunate. The neighborhood I lived in, my mother's neighborhood in Boat Quay, it was so-called the open door policy, right? So you could play with your neighbors, who most of them around my age. I was also living with my cousin. We had a multi-family household in the pre-war shop house.
Yep.
Different many levels. We occupy our time that way, really. Yeah, we went to school. We had to do homework. We had a lot of time to go out onto the streets to explore. And those days, if I recall correctly, we had these little stores which sort of rented out comics and other books. They were mainly his books. I was introduced to characters like Lao. So in that sense, that's how we occupy our time.
What kind of work did you do that shapes your life?
Currently, I'm in the investing line.
Yep.
So I've been in the investing line for more than 36 years.
Wow.
And the one thing about investing is it encompasses quite a lot of fields of disciplines. So it's not just only about mathematics, although that is important. You learn about psychology, you learn about history, because sometimes the way things are today, due to some historical causes or origins, right? In a way, having gone through this field, I've come to appreciate history.
Nice.
So now I'm so-called at my age, I'm on a nostalgia trip. All the football players I knew in the 70s, I try to find images of them or collect memorabilia relating to those times. The Malaysia Cup days of Singapore in the 70s. And then I try to find pictures of the places that I'm familiar with. In Boat Quay, we were very close to Fort Canning Hill. At that time, we had the National Theatre,
Correct.
Frankcliffe Aquarium.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And even, I think, a River Valley swimming pool. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then all the bumboats, the tongkangs along the river, the flats that I stayed after, I think it was in the early 70s, we were relocated because redevelopment was already taking place at that time. I remember there were 2 blocks of flats that were built literally along the Singapore River.
Okay, I give you this market, then it will even relieve your memory even more.
Okay.
Ilimbro Market.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yep. I have vague recollections. I remember there was a wet market. There were some vegetable centers, if I'm not wrong, because there were baskets of different kinds of vegetables.
Correct.
And then, there were some marquee food stalls.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. In fact, I think maybe RO is still quite popular. RO today, I think, is in Red Hill. But they actually started from Teochew Street.
Oh, yeah, the RO. Yeah, right.
And then the Arboling and even the Tau Swan subsequently went to garner recognition in Singapore. But of course, I think the original hawkers behind those businesses obviously are sadly no longer with us. And then the other thing was the curry bee hoon, which is now in Hong Lim.
All the good food.
Yeah. And then it's a lot like many other parts of life, sometimes you don't appreciate it until they are no longer
Correct.
available or they are gone.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, agree.
So in a way, again, studying history or being cognizant of history is quite important because it helps you to appreciate, at least for me.
This Lumina Vitae episode is brought to you by the Bloom Fund managed by TRCL. The Bloom Fund is an intergenerational initiative dedicated to bridging generations and fostering meaningful connections between seniors and younger communities. By promoting shared experiences and mutual understanding, the fund aims to reduce social isolation, cultivate empathy, and build a more inclusive and compassionate society. Through strategic partnerships and ongoing research, the Bloom Fund continues to champion innovative arts programs that empower individuals to grow together across ages.
Who were in your family that strongly impacts your life?
I think there was not just one, but there were many. Obviously, I have a big debt of gratitude to my mum. I came from a bit of a complicated background. My mum wasn't really my biological mother. She was a spinster, but I think there was some pressure for her to have children. Basically, my mum adopted my sister and I as a pair, which was quite a common practice in those days.
Yes,
of these adoptions. Yep. I think it was from a business partner, and then I grew up until I was quite old before I realized that my mum wasn't my biological mum. But having said that, my mum never stinted in her love for me and really gave me a lot of, how should I put it, she really allowed me to develop. In a way, I was a bit spoiled. Whatever I wanted, I could get.
So privileged.
Yeah, in that sense, yeah. So I always appreciated what my mom has done for me to allow me to be here today.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah.
And of course, my cousins.
Nice.
My cousins cultivated in me the love for reading. My auntie's family were much more Anglophile, so I learned very English at quite a young age, and they encouraged me to read and so on. Some experiences are happy, some are not so happy, but hopefully you take away the right lessons from each of them. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Back to National Theatre, right?
Yes.
Yeah, your favorite place that you've been hanging out. Maybe you can describe, because again, the icon no longer in Singapore.
Yep.
Maybe you can describe and give us some idea how National Theatre look like.
Yeah, I can always remember the sort of a pointed facade of the National Theatre. I think, if I'm not wrong, there was 3 points.
Yep.
Those days, maybe I was a bit too young to attend too many shows. But I remember one show I attended because my cousins brought me there. It was a kabuki performance.
Wow.
Yeah. And I ended up crying because I was a little lad and the kabuki faces were very frightening to me. With the wild-looking hair.
Oh dear.
Yeah. And then they were talking a language which I couldn't understand. And it sounded quite aggressive as well. So I remember the whole performance is crying. But I remember when I went inside the theatre itself, there was this slope with all the seats, and then you had the stage in front of you. And I think there was some pop concerts there as well. By maybe the Bee Gees, but I was too young to appreciate.
Correct. Yeah. Then I also remember something in front of National Theatre.
Yeah, they had this water fountain, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, that sort of a shape of a bowl. If
looks like a crescent. Remember, it's a white crescent type of concept.
Yeah. And then you had Van Cleef Aquarium on sort of slightly to the left.
Correct. Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, because it's so close by to you, after a while, it became part of the wallpaper. Right? So you didn't quite notice until, you read that, it's about to go, and then suddenly all the pangs of remorse come out that, I should have spent more time there or visited.
Correct. Okay, my next question is, what advice would you give to the young generation of today about the past?
From my point of view, certainly I think it's important to have an understanding of the past so that one can appreciate what has happened since then. Of course, in the case of Singapore, it's been, in a way, a success story since the days of independence. So in that sense, it's a happy experience. But there might be other cases where the experiences are not so happy, but still it's quite important to understand, like you said earlier, to understand what's in the past so that you can appreciate things better. I would basically advise not to see things as they are currently without having an understanding of what may have happened before that led to the current situation.
Correct. Yeah. Wow, wonderful. You sum up everything. So the past and also the present, and also if you have a word for the future, what would you what would be the word that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think in investments, we are taught not really to forecast because forecasting is not easy because there are so many variables that could happen, but it's to adapt. I think the most important thing is to adapt. And of course, as human beings, it's not easy. Even after more than 36 years in the line, sometimes I'm still quite stubborn with certain things. And sometimes the stubbornness pays off, but there are also times when the stubbornness actually don't pay off because my calls on the markets are wrong, and then Mr. Market basically teaches you a lesson. Again, we sort of cycle back to what you said, Simon, that times like that, when you have a bad experience or even a good experience, the key thing is to understand the lessons from them. You know?
Wow,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I like to sum up some words of wisdom. The market is dynamic and volatile. Global uncertainty will always be part of financial industry. As long as the sun rises from the east and set from the west, fortune favors the behold.
That sounds very familiar. You've
I
been
don't
doing
know who
your,
said
you've
that.
been doing, yeah, you've been doing your research.
That's why I thought this will be a good quote to end with.
Thank you very much.